tonight on Game Plan.
Let's make sure that we are in the best position to go out and succeed, week one.
The Saints are back as they welcome a familiar foe to town.
15, and he's still on his feet, and he will score.
See how the black and gold are looking to turn around their recent history of slow starts. Plus, could Mike Gillislee be the perfect short-term fill-in for Mark Ingram? All of that and a look into which Saints to start in fantasy football. Week one of Game Plan kicks off right now.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
The wait is over, the Saints are back, the goals are high, but the journey is just beginning. Welcome to Game Plan with Don the Magic Juan Kincaid. I'm Sean Fazan.
Journey, expectations, magic. If that doesn't sum up how the Who Dat Nation feels about another push for the Super Bowl, nothing does. Next year is finally this year, and it all kicks off on Sunday against the division rival that's always a pain in the Saints you-know-what. But Drew Brees says they're ready to rumble.
Excited that, we've gotten through an offseason where I felt like we got good work in. Watch the team come together, watch some guys start to, fill some roles that are going to be important for us this year. And now it's time to start to play for keeps again, which is when it gets fun. You grind in camp, right? You grind. I mean, there's an element of toughness. There's an element of, survival to a degree, getting through camp. I mean, you got to develop an identity, and so there's the balance, though, between that and then, all right, then once you start getting ready for the season, it's, let's make sure that we are in the best position to go out and succeed, week one. And so I feel like Sean's done a really good job of giving us time to take care of our bodies, recover from, what was a tough competitive training camp, and now get ready to go out and be our best, for week one.
First up, an NFC South foe, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And you know, Juan, when these two teams meet, you got to throw the records. No, we're not starting the show off with a cliche already. What we know is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with or without their franchise quarterback, will be a worthy competitor.
So the season is here, and the Saints' opponent is one they know well. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are never an easy one. The big storyline heading into Sunday's game is not who the Bucs have playing, it's who they don't. Jameis Winston is out. Ryan Fitzpatrick is in. And for the Saints defense, Fitzpatrick is the type of quarterback that can and will beat you if you don't take him serious.
You don't make it this long in the league at quarterback, without being capable to not only manage a game but win games for your team. So I think, if anyone thought we were going to come to this game and doubt him and undermine him and think he isn't capable of, wielding this team to a victory, then they're wrong.
But when you talk about what he's capable of, we know that he's always come out hot. I mean, usually, if he can start off a season, he comes out hot the first quarter. And that's all he's got to hold it down for. I mean, if anything, I'm more aware of what he can do. His pocket presence, his ability to fill. If you look back at some of his Buffalo film, he comes out hot first 6 games. And all he's got to do is rock it for 4.
On defense, the Bucs are stout, particularly up front, led by Gerald McCoy. Linebackers Quan Alexander and Levante David are 2 of the league's best. And on the back end, Brent Grimes and Vernon Hargraves are a solid pair.
Same guys coming back. A lot of fiery. They're eager to show something this year. They want to make a name for themselves. We just got to go out, man, play the play, man, play the game. You got some great guys, no matter how old they get over there, and so you got to come out and just play.
They're a very good defense, and as you look at them, especially down the stretch last year, every game they played was close, and unfortunately, for them, they fell short in some of those. But man, they were right there at the end of a lot of those games, and so we know how competitive this team is, regardless of what their record said last year. I know that they're a prideful group. They've got a lot of really good players on defense.
Now, this matchup with Tampa is never easy. The Saints play them twice a year, and they've split with them the last 3 seasons.
It's because knowledge is power.
It is.
It's hard for division rivals to keep any secrets from each other. The Bucs will arrive in the Crescent City on Saturday without their starting quarterback, as Jameis Winston will be serving a 3-game suspension to start the season. So the Bucs have been in the same predicament as the Saints, giving their normal starter preseason minutes while trying to get his replacement ready Helping Tampa will be the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick is a veteran signal caller, but still, these Bucs will enter the game and the Dome as underdogs, and they're okay with that.
We're not worrying about being an underdog, man. We've been an underdog for the longest now. We just focusing on just making sure we're doing everything right, and then getting a win for Jameis. When he come back, he's gonna be ready. So we're gonna play for him, and we're just gonna win.
Since 2013, the Saints have played the Bucs 3 times in the first 5 weeks of the season. They've won 2 of those 3 meetings.
So missing your most important player should help the Saints' cause?
We do think it will. The Bucs can say all they want, that they have faith and belief in Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he's a backup for a reason, and the Saints should be able to take advantage of going against a backup.
No, Fitzmagic could be tough. We shall see. Still to come on Game Plan, what stands out about the Saints' new running back, Mike Gillislee? The tape revealed one very unique quality. We'll dive deep into my film study next.
In the meantime, download the Final Play app and see what all the buzz is about. Our one-stop shop for all things black and gold has analysis, blogs, slideshows, tons of videos, and you can submit a question for us to answer using the Final Word feature.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
The Saints are dealing with their own suspension this week, and for the first 4 games, Sean, the absence of Mark Ingram has led to a bit of a musical chairs at the running back spot.
You are correct, and one player they brought in was Mike Gillislee. He's someone that more than anything else brings one key attribute to the table, as I discovered in my film study.
One stat that jumped out about Mike Gillislee was, for a guy that didn't get a ton of carries, he had 13 touchdowns in his last 24 games. The tape showed why this was. Simply put, he's a good short yardage and goal line runner. All but one of those touchdowns over the last 2 seasons came from inside the 5-yard line. Here he is against the Saints last year. There's really no secret to it. Gillislee just follows his blocker and has a good sense of how to finish forward into the end zone. That game was also Gillislee's season high in carries last year. The Patriots used him primarily in base or heavy personnel packages. On those runs, Gillislee essentially trusts the play and his blockers and gains what he can. Nothing overly fancy. He simply gets the job done.
Now, Gillislee doesn't help much in the receiving game, only has 16 receptions in his career, but I'll be very curious to see if he is effective in pass protection.
Sean Payton does love his experienced running back, so Gillislee does make sense for this team, and the Saints will need him to be everything they're going to be missing by not having Mark Ingram in the lineup. Since he's been here, Ingram's developed into one of the team's most important players because of all the things he does well, aside from just running the ball. He's really developed into an all-purpose back, producing multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons, showing an ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, but perhaps his most underrated asset, how well he does at protecting Drew Brees.
He's definitely important. He's a guy that not only understands how to run the football, but he's a receiving tailback that can help you not only on first and second downs as a pass-catching receiver. I think his importance really comes to play in third down and understanding how to pick up a blitz. You know, when teams want to pressure Drew Brees, he can pick up the blitz and identify the backer really, really well. So I think that they're going to be itching to get him back. I think this group is ready to go. It's going to be interesting to see how the timing all plays out. But look for Alvin Kamara to be a guy that they get heavily involved in this first week.
While Gillislee was brought in to replace Ingram's carries in the offense, it's important that he, along with every other running back on the roster, is able to protect number 9 along the same level as Mark Ingram did in the past. That's the most important thing.
In this offense, pass protection is key for a running back. So how good is this Saints team as they get set to open their season? Luke Johnson from NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, joins us in studio to debate next.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
Well, I think there's heat, but at the end of the day, the Saints need to come away with a victory. Yeah. And I think for them, they have to keep their composure. They have to keep their focus. You know, you feed off of that home crowd, but you can't get caught up of any of that sideline stuff. You have to take them serious. And, you know, the thing is, I think that they're going to be aggressive. I think that, hey, look, you can bring pressure on him, but at the end of the day, they have enough weapons outside. You talk about Jackson, you talk about Evans, Brait. You know, they have enough weapons that they can bother you as a team, so you can't take him lightly.
Saints Hall of Famer Deuce McAllister will be with us Sunday morning at 10 a.m. to preview the game, and Sunday night at 10:30 to wrap it all up. Come Monday, you can catch Deuce at 8 a.m., 5 p.m., and at 10:35. All of it, all of Deuce right here on Fox 8. Joined now by Luke Johnson, NOLA.com and Times-Picayune. He's the beat writer for the Saints with them right now. Let's go back 8 months ago. We know how the season ended. 8 months later, is this team better, worse, or still a big question mark?
I think they're better. You got two of the best young players in the league, and Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore. Drew Brees, I think you know what you're going to get from him, even in his age 39 season. I think they've added some nice pieces to that defense. They've added some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I think objectively you can look at this team right now and say this is a Super Bowl contender. Even though they were last year, I think they took a step forward.
Okay.
I agree. I think they are better. Doesn't necessarily mean they got the same record, because I think the schedule's a little bit different. I think they got a little bigger target on their back, but still, I do think it's a deeper team. I like the additions they made on defense. Obviously, Drew Brees is still Drew Brees. A lot of those guys had great rookie years. They're all returning for that second year, hopefully no sophomore slump. So, all things being equal, I think they're better this year now than they were when they ended the season last year.
We always know a good start to the season is always best for this football team. Are we making too much of the fact they haven't won a season opener since 13?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, last year they were able to overcome that. In 2011, they overcame that. But the other times that they've lost the season opener, they were not able to overcome that. It's more, maybe not necessarily the first game of the season. It's really the first quarter of the season. If they're 2-2 or less, or 1-3 and less, it's usually tough to dig themselves out of that hole. Last year they overcame the 2-2 hole, but for the most part, 3-1, 4-0, that usually leads to a successful season.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints have put themselves in this position to where this is something we're talking about, right? This is, I think, 4 straight years they've started off at least 2-2 or worse. So they need to do better, clearly. But I think you can still say every year is its own year and still have confidence in these guys to go out and start the way they're supposed to start, even if that historically has not been the case the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think, let me just throw this out there, because this year they need it, because if you've seen the second and third quarters of the season, the schedule, it's pretty brutal. So I think this year they really need it.
And it helps you playing two teams open the season in Tampa and Cleveland at home, 2 very winnable football games. The lasting impression we had from Drew Brees was 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 1 game played for the second straight year in the preseason. Give me the reason why it's going to be different and better from what we saw in the preseason from him.
What did the last 12 years in New Orleans tell you? I'll tell you why. The guy is on pace to break the all-time yardage record this year. He's, I think, on pace to break the all-time completions record. He's within striking distance of Peyton Manning's all-time touchdown record. You don't have to worry about that guy. I think that maybe there comes a point where you start to worry about whether the age is catching up to Drew Brees, but I don't think now is the time. And I think that preseason showing was just enough to make sure he gets some reps, gets in there with some of the guys, gets familiar with them, but you don't want to put Drew Brees out there too much in those meetings.
Look, why are they going to be better? Because they always are. I mean, frankly, they always are better. The offense always comes to play, regardless of how bad they've been in other areas of their team. Throughout the entire tenure, they've always had a top 5, top 7 offense. And who's the one guy they've had the entire time?
Yeah, number 9.
Number 9. So that is the least of my worries right now.
They're not going to have Mark Ingram for the first 4 games of the season. In the past, you say, no big deal, but he's turned into a very good player for this football team, one of the best backs in the league. The adjustment over the first 4 weeks will be difficult, not so hard?
I'm curious to see how this kind of works itself out, because as I've always said, I think Sean Payton is a creative enough play caller and offensive mind to figure it out and navigate without Mark Ingram. Look, he's been injured throughout his career in spurts, so they've been able to overcome that in the past. But still, I think Mark Ingram is playing his best football of his career right now these last 2 seasons, and he's a guy that he really shows up his value as a 3-down back and can really, run, catch, and protect Drew Brees. I think that's something we're going to have to, kind of watch as the season goes on, or at least the first quarter of the season goes on, because you only have Galissi and Alvin Kamara right now as the 2 tailbacks. I'm curious how that fluctuates as we get closer and closer to game time.
We're going to stay on offense with our first question using the final play app on the Final Word feature. This one comes from Chuck Tho out of Ponchatoula. He wants to know who gets more snaps in week 1 at wide receiver, Traquan Smith or Cameron Meredith? Interesting question there because Meredith had such a great last game and Traquan was really good for the entire preseason.
I'm going Traquan. We were out there at practice today. He was running with the first-team offense. You look at what that guy did in the preseason. He was the best receiver they had in every game. Mike Thomas wasn't playing much every preseason game, so we're going to go ahead and say Traquan's not Mike Thomas yet, but I think they really like what he's bringing to the team. He's a big, explosive target, and right now, I think they think Cameron Meredith is going to be there eventually. He's going to be a big part of this offense. I just don't think right now is that time. He's coming off that injury.
He's coming off some injuries, and I think there was some issues early on about him kind of picking up the system a little bit. So I'm with Luke here. I think it's going to be Traquan Smith. I think he gets thrown right into the fire. They trust him. I think he's earned that trust. And as I said before many a times, this is not a one-trick pony. This is a guy that can go deep, he can go intermediate, and he can go short, and he's very explosive with the ball in his hands. I think he gets on the field a lot and gets quite a few catches in week 1 against Tampa Bay.
The big question on the other side of the ball, I think, remains is can this team stop the run? At the point of attack, at the front four. You agree with that?
100%. To me, that is the biggest concern by the Saints heading into the season is can they stop the run? Now, let me say this. In today's NFL, you don't necessarily need a dominant run defense to be successful. As long as you're good against the pass and are able to create some takeaways, you can overcome a 17 or 18th ranked run defense, but you can't be a hole in the middle. You can't be 26, 27, 28 in the league. So power run teams could be an issue. We'll see if that pops up in week 1. But, yes, I think run defense is a legitimate concern that they can overcome, but it is something to watch.
Tampa's going to test that on the Saints. That's going to be their bread and butter.
No, especially with Jameis Winston being out. I think Tampa's going to try to establish that run game early and let Fitzpatrick get some comfortability there.
We know Tampa's going to be without Jameis Winston the first 3 games of the season. Fitzpatrick gets the call there. Can this team get pressure on the quarterback consistently without having to rely on blitzing?
The Saints? Yeah, for sure. I think so. I think when you look at some of the guys they have, Cam Jordan obviously is one of the best guys in the league at that. Alex Okafor was very strong in that department. They can throw Davenport in situational pass rushing situations. They've got, I think Sheldon Rankins is going to take a step forward this year. Onyemata's been impressive. I think that front 4 can really cause some problems with it.
And let's not forget Trey Hendrickson, who really had a good preseason and a good training camp, kind of quietly. I think he flashed a little bit in a couple of the preseason games. So, look, they've spent a lot of resources on improving this pass rush. So can they? Yes. And obviously they better because they put a lot of money into rushing the pass, and hopefully it comes to fruition this year.
All right, so the Saints play Tampa this Sunday. They will snap that losing the first game of the season for the last 4 years if they do what?
Create some takeaways, be explosive on offense, kind of take advantage of the home field atmosphere. This is a very winnable game, and it's an NFC South game. I think it's a perfect opportunity to start 1-0.
Yeah, 100% agree with Sean. I think they got to get off to a fast start, get that crowd behind them early, and I think if they can do that, they'll snowball Tampa Bay.
Saints have played Tampa Bay 3 times since 2013. In the first 5 games, they've won 2 of those 3 matchups. Luke Johnson from Noel.com and the Times-Picayune. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Coming up, you may want to start every Saints player on your fantasy football roster, but you'll want to heed Chris Hagan's advice first about which matchups are favorable and which are not.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
Welcome back into Showtime now for our keys to the game.
NFL, not for long, also refers to the difficulty of defending a Super Bowl or even your own division title. In the NFL, parity is the name of the game, and a big reason why we all love this game so much. In 2017, 5 of the division winners finished 3rd or 4th in their division the previous season. And 8 teams that missed the playoffs 2 years ago showed up in the postseason the next year. As for repeating as Super Bowl champs, only, how many, Sean?
8.
8 teams have done that, with the Patriots being the last to do it back in 2004 and 2005. Drafts are done. Rosters are all set. Bring on the 2018 season for fantasy football.
Bring it on, yes. And the fantasy of every team owner is to win the big prize at season's end. Chris Hagan has some fantasy advice on the Saints as week 1 rolls on.
Going into week 1 of the NFL season, and almost as important, the fantasy football season, you want to be sure your roster is just right. As we've covered in the Extra Point blog online, Fantasy football is all about going with the pick that's smart, not with your heart. Several Saints players obviously make for local favorites to put in your starting lineup, but some you should avoid. We'll start with the easy picks. Alvin Kamara should be a week in and week out starter, no matter the defense. The Saints always have and always will work him into the game plan, and especially against the Buccaneers, he's poised to have a big day. In 2 games against Tampa Bay last year, Kamara accounted for 280 yards from scrimmage and 3 touchdowns on offense and a kickoff return for a 4th score. The next must start has to be Michael Thomas. He's always good to fill up the box score with catches and yards, making him a top 15 selection in PPR leagues. And any touchdown scored is a welcome bonus. I fully expect Thomas to improve on his 5 trips to the end zone from 2017. The guy delivering Thomas the football, Drew Brees, should also be in your lineup at least this week. While his stock as a top-tier fantasy quarterback is falling because of the Saints' heavy run scheme, don't forget the tremendous upside number 9 has to light up the scoreboard. Not to mention, Brees has a few new weapons like Traquan Smith and Cameron Meredith that could give their red zone passing offense a much-needed boost. However, that doesn't mean I'm sold on starting those new weapons on my fantasy team just yet. With so much receiver depth elsewhere in the league, it would be wise to wait and see how Smith and Meredith are used, but even then, counting on them for consistent fantasy football production is not advised, given how much the Saints running backs are used in the passing game, taking targets away from everyone but Michael Thomas. Finally, I'm a big fan of the Saints defense this year. 1, Alex Okafor's back at defensive end, and last year before he was hurt, he was a catalyst for creating mayhem with tipped passes that led to Saints interceptions. And 2, Marcus Williams. He's been an interception machine in training camp, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was him or Marshawn Lattimore pulling in a pick or 2 with Ryan Fitzpatrick starting for the suspended Jameis Winston. Especially in the Dome, it's hard to go wrong with that unit. Reporting on fantasy football for Game Plan, I'm Chris Hagan.
Our coverage certainly doesn't stop here. Lots more football on Fox 8 this week. Friday, we switch to the high school gridiron for Fox 8 Football Friday at 10:35. Sunday morning, wake up with us on Fox 8 Live Tailgate at 10 a.m. Then we'll get you ready for kickoff at high noon. Our reports begin on Fox 8 News at 9, leading up to the final play at 10:30. After that, you can catch league-wide coverage of NFL Game Day Prime on Fox Sports.
And of course, Juan, you can always get in touch with us using the Final Word feature on the Final Play app. That will do it for us tonight. Thank you for watching Game Plan, and thanks to everyone here at Fox 8 for their contributions. Our next newscast is at
4:30 in the morning.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers.